Hey, everybody. Thank y'all for tuning in tonight for Protect Our Second with our first planning of the Second Amendment rallies. Tonight, so far, we have the awesome Gizzard Gary. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you? Thanks for the invite.
Thank you for joining. And also, we have Tardot. How are you?
You asked that like you don't know, but yeah, I'm fine.
I don't.
Thanks. Thanks for the mandatory invite.
Yeah, no problem. I should include you. Rich is in the chat. Vanessa Kitty, Calaveras. How is everybody? Sandhill Shooter. Thank you all for joining today. We are really excited to start this new adventure. LV and Andrew Faulkner. Hello, guys. Today, we're really going to be trying to get an idea of when would be the best to try to do these 2A rallies, get everybody's input, and try to move forward since a lot of our rights are not really being helped by a lot of things. So I think it'll be great to be able to plan out and have these Second Amendment rallies and see if we can shine some better light onto this community. So,
So,
Tardot. Oh,
yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
good. All right. Well, so the big thing is, guys. Now, I was hoping to have more people on our panel, but I did forget Yankee was live tonight and a few others. So we may end up kind of rescheduling to have a full-on plan chat to where we can have like Never Enough Ammo and a few others on that were involved last year, so we can actually get a better idea of what failed last year and what worked, so we can have a better idea of how to plan this. Now, I do want to put out there for a lot of anybody who's watching that the big thing we're going to look for is obviously myself, Gunpowder, Gary, Ghost, Clover, Never Enough Ammo, all of us that you usually see talking about these rallies and trying to get these planned. We can't plan the whole nation. We can give some guidance. We can kind of get some people running things for each state. But that's where we do need emails for who can actually get involved for each state and help out with each state. So, definitely email me or Gunpowder. It's tar.357@gmail.com or which email?
Gunpowder.beauty01@gmail.com.
That email. And you can say, here's my state. I want to be involved, whether you want to just completely take over the planning for the state or if you're just wanting to help out, if you've got some resources that you can help out with. That's going to be a big part of it. Like I said, I know without having a big panel, especially of those people that were involved in planning last year, it's going to be hard to start planning tonight. But the big thing that's going to be the major issue of setting this up is setting up days and times. And I know a lot of the people that are in the chat and listening and watching are people that want to be involved. So by all means, as we're talking about, when we want to do this, when would be a good time, put that out there in the chat. Keep in mind, I know we want to strike when the iron is hot. We want to kind of do these soon, yes, but at the same time, the big failure last year, from my perspective, the big thing that really hurt was, and it's nothing against the planning last year. The planning was great. It's just that we had such a limited time frame to plan these things and put these things together that it's hard to get a large group of people to do any one thing within just a couple weeks. It gets done on the anti-gunner side, and we see it get done for multiple other causes. But you got to realistically think people have to work and feed their families. And it does come down to, not everybody can just say, hey, I'm taking a day off in 2 weeks, or 3 weeks. Sometimes they've got to plan things out for about a month ahead of time. So keep that in mind if you're throwing dates out there that, when we want to actually plan these things to happen. I don't know what thoughts y'all have on that. I know me and Gunpowder have kind of talked about it, and one of the ideas was probably around the beginning of June into May to give us enough time to actually plan and to have people actually in their areas. Because as far as content creators, if y'all don't know, we've got a lot of plans coming up through April and May, and I think even May. I don't remember if it's June or when it is. The USCCA Expo happens, but there's a lot of plans that are happening for a lot of content creators to attend expos and gun shows and everything else for just for the channels to get some content out there.
I know last year they did it on a Sunday. I'm not sure we want to do that again this year or not.
Well, and that was another conversation me and Gunpowder had, was Sundays. When we went Sunday, now I don't know about every other state, but for Texas, the turnout wasn't horrible. Like Matt said, it was probably 20, 30 people, maybe a little bit more. And we couldn't really tell because there were a lot of people that weren't necessarily there for the rally that kind of just melded in with our group. But when it comes down to it, getting those planned, doing it on a Sunday is one of those days that a lot of people have stuff they've got to do. A lot of people are needing to get back and get ready for work. Because I know as far as Texas, you got to think when you're trying to get people from all over the state, going from Austin to say, the furthest you can away, like El Paso, Lubbock, something like that, you're talking, good 10-hour drive, 16-hour drive possibly. So people are having to get back, and Sundays are just those days. There's not a lot of visibility. Our thought was on a Friday, maybe a Saturday. Worse, if we really wanted to plan it on the weekend.
Well, I know last year in Kansas, we only had 2 people that made it. I was one of them. The other one came from 3 hours away. And it's amazing in a city of 125,000 people like Topeka is that we couldn't get one person from the city to show up at the State House.
And that was the difficult part. When it came to our group, as far as who showed up, it was a lot of people from out of town. I think we had a couple that were close by, maybe in town, but the majority were, we were out of the DFW area. Matt is from wherever he's at down in South Texas, and there was a couple other people that were just kind of from all over the state, but there really wasn't a lot representing the Austin area.
Right.
The big problem we're going to have there, and that's going to be part of this planning, and this is another thing I need to throw out there, is, like I said, if anybody has resources to get some stuff out there, Matt has a Facebook page already set up that anybody who's going to be planning rallies can have access to. He's already said that. We just got to talk to him and make sure he grants specific people access to it. But it's going to be more than that. I mean, we have got to get out there and just really, me and Gunpowder were talking about flyers, things like that, just getting, not everybody's on social media. Not everybody's on Facebook. Sometimes you got to hit all social media platforms, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever else got you. We got to hit them all. But you also got to think there's people that just do not like social media and do not like technology. So we may end up having to make a big push physically by doing flyers, just going around and talking to people. I'm thinking and this is kind of self-promotion and not, I've put together a store for Tar Dot Productions through Spreadshirt, and I'm thinking of seeing if I can get some a design set up for the 2A Capitol rallies that we can put through that store. That way, if people want to wear shirts, they can get that visibility out there, things like that.
See, the thing is, last year there were a lot of people that were wanting to get speakers at their rallies, like if you're wanting to get a certain congressman there or something like that. Well, you've got to have a little bit of lead time to get something like that done. They usually won't just drop everything. Also, if you're wanting your state organization to assist you with promotion and stuff like that, well, they don't move all that fast either. You've got to make the contacts and stuff. Now, last year we only had about 2 weeks lead time, I believe, if we had that, before we got everything planned. So the earlier we can get the date scheduled and get the word out, then you could start maybe going to like gun shows and stuff and distributing flyers and stuff like that. But
Definitely. And with a large portion of us being in Wanamaker, that's going to be a big part of it is, we'll have that ability to hand out flyers and everything there and kind of talk to people there. Sadly, I'm not sure who all is in Oklahoma, so that's going to be one of those states where it's going to kind of be a toss-up of who's going to take care of that.
yeah,
But, at least, but if we get the message out there, somebody may opt in that may not even be in our group or crew.
yeah. Last year when I joined the Facebook page for Kansas, there were already 5 people in there before me. What's funny is none of those 5 people bothered showing up at the rally.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, the 2-week, 3-week notice, there's a lot of people that can't really pull that off as easily. I mean, it's one of those things. We've got to make sure we have the time to plan. I'm not going to say, well, yeah, I am. So when you look at the other side, when you look at the anti-gun side and a lot of the protesters out there, and a lot of protesters for a lot of the causes that you see, there a lot of times are paid actors for the protesters. And also you end up with a large group of people who, let's just say they have a lot of time on their hands. And, on this side of it, we don't all always have that much time to be able to just be able to drop everything with a 2-week notice and ship off, possibly 3 to 16 hours away.
Right.
So, Gary, what kind of days do you think? I mean, like I said, I'm trying to keep it kind of close. I know, like I said, striking the iron when the iron's hot is a big thing, but at the same time, we don't want to necessarily say, oh, by the end of March we have to have it planned. We want to give ourselves time to get everybody coordinated and get a good effort going this time around.
Well, as far as what days you're going to do it, I think June, as long as you don't get too early in June, you're all right. And you don't really want to be right on the 4th of July either. But I think you need a month or two advance notice at least to have a date set. As far as that goes. Now, as far as day of the week goes, I would not recommend doing Sunday again, but Saturday maybe, Friday. The only thing about Friday is a lot of people would have to take off work. Of course, you're going to get more media publicity if you have it during the week too. So,
Which that could. Okay. That could kind of work in our favor with having media coverage. I think Friday would be better. I mean, it's closer to the weekend. I did put out there the 1st of June is the first Friday. The 8th is the second Friday. Saturdays, you're going to be able to have tourists that are around, but you're not really going to have people that are in office. And if we're wanting to get our voices heard, you kind of need to make sure that they're in office, and that would be during the week. And I think if we plan it out enough that people could sit there and say, hey, I need this one Friday off, 5 or 6 weeks from now, or, give enough heads up to their boss or whoever that they're going to need that day off. I don't know.
Well, and a big thing with the weekend, Gary, you were talking about having the ability to have media, because we do want that national coverage. That is a big thing. We do want coverage through the media. Do I think we're going to hit a 24-hour news cycle on these cable channels? No. But at the least, if we can get national coverage through local media, that's a big step up. Now, Texas, I'll say this much. With it being a Sunday, Texas, we still had, I know, some local reporters for the Austin area, and I think we had a few that were out of that region that were actually reporting on it. And it was kind of various on the media we had. Now, the big reason for that was Matt and I don't know if anybody else did, but I know Matt had actually gotten a radio spot and a small interview on a radio station in one of the areas. And that's a big thing to look at is, even if all it means is we put a post in social media to the social media site or the website for your local news stations, whatever else, and let them know that what's being planned, what's coming. That can give them the idea of, okay, we know this is going on. And honestly, with a lot of the anti-gun push and a lot of the anti-gun news coverage, that might be a little enticing to them, because now they're going to have that possibility. Because I can guarantee you, if this gets a lot of traction, which I really want it to, and I really want to plan for this to happen, so it's, like I said, that's why we need a lot of help on getting these going. If you get a lot of traction, they're going to look at it as, they'll look at it as the anti-gunners versus the pro-gunners. As much as we don't want to make this sound like a battle, that is what they're going to take to get out there. And so if they see that we're having these protests, these rallies, I keep saying protests, but if we're having these rallies to support our Second Amendment rights, they may very well come out there. Now, I'll say one thing. When we had the news media at the Texas rally, the most part, it was positive coverage. I'm trying to remember, there was one that got a picture of me with my middle son, my son on my shoulders, and I did start seeing some little bit of anti-gun twist to the remarks in there. But that's going to happen with the media. There's going to be some anti-gun stuff thrown in there, but it's getting that visibility.
Yeah, especially now. I mean, the coverage you're going to get, and there's going to probably be some protesters.
Definitely. And like I said, that's why I want to get the word out there. So, okay, so as far as days, I do want to come up with a solid, at least a day that we think. Now, I know the specific date may change over the course of the next week or so as we get more people into these chats and into these panels. But beginning of June, and because originally my thought was possibly the end of May. Now, the big problem there that was pointed out to me, and it's just Texas, this is coming from the Texas point of view, was that the end of May for us is usually graduation time. Usually about middle to end of May is your graduation period, where
I'm here.
Yeah. So you kind of look at that, and that's going to be a hard time to really justify trying to push. I mean, people are going to come, if people really want to support their rights, they're going to come to it in my eyes. But I know a lot of people aren't going to skip their kids' graduation to go to a Second Amendment rally.
Right. Those are typically on a Saturday around here. Well, at least the colleges are now. High schools, not real sure. That they really depend.
Our high school ones usually run for a couple weeks, and it's Saturdays. I think I've even seen a few on Sundays and some on weekdays on occasion, but that's just because we've got so many high schools in the area that use this one location for it.
Thank you for joining us, Sand Hills. You got any input on this?
I would say that I think Nebraska had one of the more successful rallies back in November. And I think a lot of that was because, three main reasons. Number one, Travis P11 really took point as far as anybody from our community, the gun channels guys and ladies. And he got in touch with the Nebraska Firearms Owners Association, and they took it and just ran with it. And they did wonders, but they've got connections. Having that on a Sunday, I think, made the most sense. I mean, I know we did it on the date because it was the Gunpowder Treason Day. But it was easy for me to get the day off because I had the day off. And I think we had a lot of people that were there that kind of the same thing going on. You know, they already had the day off. And I think it would have been a lot bigger here in our state if we'd had more time to get the word out. So I would say Sunday myself. That's just me.
Yeah, and for as much as I'm saying, Sunday was kind of a problem, I honestly, we did get a pretty good turnout for honestly planning it out within a couple weeks. So, and that's a big point. If anybody remembers or knows who kind of took care of what state, to maybe throw that out there, because honestly, I couldn't remember. Yeah, I know who was at the Texas one. I know who took care of Texas, but I don't remember the rest of the nation. So that's the part I don't really know. But it may not be a bad idea for Sunday. Let me pull up my calendar real quick so I can see what days are around that time. So it looks like as far as like Sunday, we got the 3rd, the 10th, and the 17th, which is June. Saturdays, you got the 2nd, 9th, and 16th. And then Fridays, of course, you got the 1st, 8th, and 15th of June.
As far as people being free, I mean, I know I said Sunday might not be a good day, but people schedule a lot of stuff in June on Saturdays. That's when family reunions and class reunions and alumni banquets and stuff like that take place.
Well, how about we put it this way? Instead of trying to necessarily pick a specific day or type of day, what weekend would we want it? Because only reason I've said June. Now, if anybody has any thoughts on what month would be better, because like I said, I know we want to, we're having issues now. We don't necessarily want to wait too long. But right now, the only reason I'm saying June is it does give us that 2 or 3 month window to actually get some planning going. And then we can start doing like a 3 to 4 month cycle of doing them every so often to have every year to have them planned out. I would almost say the second weekend in June would be the best time to really start planning them. And then we can kind of throw it out there as we had more people, like I said, joining the chats. I can send emails out to everybody that was involved last year to see if there's a specific date within that weekend that they would say would be the best, and we can kind of get the general idea along and just kind of run with it.
Yeah, you're gonna pretty much pick a day and then maybe get some input from people. Well, 50% of them say this won't work. We're gonna have to try something else. You're gonna have to throw something out there in front of some people and give them some maybe.
Well, that's why I say the second weekend of June, which is giving you the 8th, 9th, and 10th. And that's why I'm saying if at that point I can send an email and say, what do you think about these days? Which day would you prefer doing it on? Or I can just tell them the 10th. We can just plan on a Sunday, tell them the 10th, and just see what they say.
We're never going to find the magic day that'll work for everybody. So we just need to figure out what we think is the most likely to get bodies there in every state.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm getting at.
It's on us to get the word out.
And Calaveras made a good point in the chat. He said, every month, every week is going to have conflicts. We need to set dates for multiple rallies, and those who are willing to make it work will be there. And that's kind of the biggest deal. A lot of people, they're gonna find some excuse to why not. But those that are actually willing to put forth the effort will find a way to go out to a rally and support the Second Amendment. But if we have them, once a month or whatever, it might work out. But I don't know. For the first part, we need to just get one set up. Calaveras.
Does anybody else feel like I do that if we do once a month or even once every 2 or 3 months, we're going to lose some of our thunder and we're going to get to where nobody shows up to any of them? I think twice a year is probably plenty, and we can make them huge.
And that's why I've kept saying in a lot of the chats that have brought it up every 6 months, because we're hitting about that 6 month, almost a 6 month period. June's a little bit past it, but Yeah, my thought was every 6 months would be the most we would want to do it in a year, because you are going to hit a point where there's not going to be as many people showing up. And then you're also going to hit a point where everybody's just kind of going, oh, those pro gunners are out there again. They're not going to really, it's not going to, I don't want to say we want to shock people, but you're not really going to get the, I guess the attention you're looking for when you do these rallies.
What if we were to do like every 6 months, first weekend in November, first weekend in May, first weekend in November, first weekend in May?
The problem is, doing it on a weekend, you're not going to catch the attention of the legislators.
Sure we are. If we've got time enough to plan and we've got time enough to get notice to them, sure we are. We're not looking for somebody to look out their office window and say, hey, what's going on down there? I'm going to look at it. We're looking for somebody to show up that's already got a prepared speech to give. We're looking to have a day that we can have the TV stations and radio stations and newspapers there. And if we have that, we're going to get the politicians. We're going to get senators. We're going to get governors, if we can, to show up at these rallies in the states that we can.
And that was exactly my sentiment about weekends, was that, yeah, you'll get the attention. If you have the media's attention, you'll have the politicians' attention. The other part of it is, even to the extent of having the anti-gunners' attention, if you have everybody's attention, if you've got the people's attention, you'll start to have the politicians' attention. We
will. Plus, we don't want to take a chance of them. We don't want anybody's government to be in session and do it on a day that they're already stuck inside the Capitol building and they can't join us. That's kind of counterproductive too, isn't it?
Yes, and you also run into the issue. Now, Texas, the laws for carry, they can't be in session and you go inside of the building, but I know there's some states that if they're in session, you're not really supposed to be on the premises carrying. So, I mean, it's a varying law for states. So you run into that issue too.
Which is going to be something that we have to consider state by state. But if we can't carry, we can't carry, but we still need to get together. If we can carry, then do so if you choose to. But I don't think it's as much about carrying as it is about awareness and getting the word out there.
No, I agree, but I'm just, the thing is, and that's what a lot of us did for last year, especially with Texas, because we can open carry, was we open carried just as a sense of, it wasn't a silent protest, but we were visible that, they could tell we had a gun with us and we weren't doing something stupid.
Sure. We did have a few people open carry at our rally, including the president of the Nebraska Firearms Owners Association was open carrying. But we have to make sure that, again, that's a fine line in the law, because we were not a political event or a political rally, so it was legal to open carry. However, had this been considered a political event, then we cannot carry in our state. So everybody, again, whoever's organizing each state, make sure that you know exactly what's okay and what's not, because the last thing we want is to have a bunch of people show up and find out that they all broke the law. That shoots ourselves in the foot.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's going to fall a lot to phrasing too. As we get the organizers for each state set up, anybody who is thinking about emailing, letting us know who wants to organize what state and all of that. As we're getting that set up, you've really got to pay attention to how you're phrasing things as you're talking to people, getting permits, everything else, whatever you need. Because if you phrase it a certain way, you have just caused a lot of people to possibly break the law. All right, so now I heard the beginning of May come up, and I'm not actually against the beginning of May. I know a lot of people are planning the NRA show in Dallas in May, and like we said, I know there's going to be plans that not everybody's going to make it. That's just going to happen.
Anybody planning to go to the NRA show in Dallas, it's not that far to kick over to Austin for a rally if it's going to be something like that. Heck, we could have people from down there, all 50 states at the Texas rally this year.
That could very well be too, and that might be actually a really good plan. And even with it being the NRA show, that was something Ghost brought up, was even if we're doing a form of protest in the Dallas area, Dallas is a major hub for the Texas areas, the state, a lot of legislators come through here, a lot of people come through here in general, and a lot of our media is based out of here, out of Dallas. So it's one of those major hubs that, you know, we may not go to the Capitol. We may just stick around in Dallas and even do it and still get a lot of attention.
As long as we can differentiate and make sure everybody understands that we are not the NRA. This is not the NRA putting this on. This is real people doing this just because we care.
Yeah, and that's what Ghost wanted to do. I guess the best way to put it was Ghost was bringing it up more as a protest, a rally against the NRA and the and being pro Second Amendment. So being a pro Second Amendment rally that kind of goes against the NRA.
Any day. I've got no love for the way that they've been treating gun owners.
So what I'm going to say, let me look at that again. I have my calendar up. And that's May 6th. It actually may not be too bad. That gives a couple months to start planning. So out of the people that are on the panel on the call, what does May 6th sound like? That's a Sunday. It's the first Sunday in May.
It's got my vote.
So, offhand, does anybody remember when the NRA show was? I've got it in my phone as the 6th.
Yeah, I could look it up, I guess. Let's see. For gosh sakes. May 3rd through the 6th is when the NRA annual meeting is.
Okay, so yeah, the 6th, and if that sounds good to everybody, we'll put that as the kind of tentative date is May 6th. And like we were saying, I understand. I know there's going to be complications. There's going to be people that say, "Hey, I can't do it on May 6th," and you're always going to have some that say that. Yeah. Now, when I look at trying to get the information out there and emailing it to everybody and passing it around to see, you know, just what the general consensus within our group is, you know, obviously if there's like a large portion going, hey, this day does not work, and it really looks like it's going to be one of those situations where we end up with a turnout like last year, you know, we may need to look at rescheduling. But May 6th, that sounds good to me, and it sounds good, it seems like, to a lot of people.
What about if you can't make the May 6th, then start planning ahead for November 4th? Isn't that the first Sunday in November then?
Yeah, that'll be this first Sunday. And that's what I'm looking for is like this call. I'm probably going to have to, or me and Gunpowder are probably going to have to change the day on the call because, like I said, I didn't realize some of the shows that were happening tonight. But, you know, we'll get another call planned out. But our plan is to have these once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, depending on how the scheduling is going to happen, to where we can plan for the current one. And then as we get closer to the current one and we have that one set, we're already planning for the next one 6 months later. So does anybody else have any thought? Now, a lot of us on this call, I know were involved last year, whether that be planning or just attending. But what did y'all see aside from scheduling conflicts and obviously aside from a 2-week notice, 3-week notice? What was some things that we see that we could actually do a little bit better about planning these out and actually getting the word out for each state?
I think the first thing is when we start inviting elected officials to come and be present, whether they speak or not, make sure that we respectfully do this, but at the same time, we put a little bit of pressure on them and let them know that, hey, if you're not with us, we're going to say that you're against us. And if you don't want to come to this, that's fine. We're going to put out a list of legislators from our state that we couldn't get a response from or turned us down because they didn't support this. And if you don't want to be on that list, then we better see you there, or you better send somebody from your office to represent you.
Yeah, and that's something I'll definitely agree with there. I know at one point, I think I was talking to Matt or one of them about the rally we were having in Austin. And one of the comments that came up was, we didn't want to invite the anti-gun side for, as far as politicians, to come out to the rally because they didn't want them to think they were going to speak. Now, if you make it abundantly clear in your invitation, this is not a speaking invitation, but we are inviting you to attend to see the event. You can invite all of them you want out there. You just got to be careful of who you want to speak and who you just want to be there.
Sure, but the organizer needs to be the one to have the itinerary, or the schedule of who's going to speak in what order and whatnot, and kind of MC the whole thing. But I think, we need to invite everybody and just let them know that the reason we're inviting you, even though you are consistently anti-Second Amendment when you're voting, we're still inviting you because we want you to see who we are. We want you to see that we're not nut jobs that only walk around with an M16 slung on our back, and we only wear BDUs and combat boots. We're normal people. We're doctors, lawyers, we're salespeople, we're blue collar people. We're everybody. We're every man or every woman. And if we invite them on that platform, I think we're going to get at least some interest from them.
Definitely. Okay, so Andrew Faulkner did have a comment. Says all the coverage will be of the anti-NRA. Worried won't be heard. Well, Andrew, and one thing I'll say about that, as far as the anti-NRA thing, a lot of us are not necessarily pro-NRA, and that would be a plus side to those of us in Texas, and we would be getting a lot of visibility and attention. Sorry, guys, I've got an angry 1-year-old here, but yeah, we would have a lot of. They would help get a lot of attention, even if it's just on the Texas side. But it would help us get that attention out to all the.
I don't know about. When.
Sorry, trying to talk.
That gives everybody in Texas at least the opportunity to say, hey, NRA, we don't like what you've done, and we've got a platform where we're loud enough you're going to hear it.
Exactly. Thank you for saying that. I had the 1-year-old was distracting me as I was talking, but that's exactly what I was getting at. Was it gives us the ability to have that conversation to where the NRA almost has no choice but to hear us. So that's definitely a plus side. All right, but yeah, it seems like we're getting a lot of good comments out there about this. I know a lot of it. The concern there with a lot of it is just that everybody's going to be looking at the anti-NRA side, and I kind of get what you're saying. I think, Andrew, about they're going to be looking at the anti-gunner side, the anti-Second Amendment side, but in all honesty, if they're there, we want to be where the coverage is. Even if they're focused over on the anti-Second Amendment side of things, if we're there and we are there in mass and we are loud and they see us, they're going to have no choice but to at least acknowledge and get that word out there. And chances are, if they see there's enough of us out there, they're going to come over and talk to us, and somebody's going to be able to say something.
Could we maybe use that as a method to bond with the people who are against the Second Amendment? And look, guys, you don't like the NRA. Guess what? We don't either. We can't stand what they're doing for a different reason than you, but at the same time, they're not our friends either. Look at us. We're normal people.
Exactly.
And again, open that dialogue.
And I want to make sure, like, everybody, especially in the chat, understands, because I know everybody pretty much gets it, but the big point to this, I mean, there's going to always be the anti-Second Amendment side. We're there, and the reason we do this is to be able to have that conversation, whether it's with somebody who's anti-gun, or whether it's with media, a politician, or even if it's with somebody who's just on the fence, middle of the road, and they're just looking for, what do I need to think about this? We want to be able to talk and show that, like Sandhill was saying, we're not these crazy, gun nuts that run around with a AR-15 or whatever slinged to our back every day and dressed in BDUs and acting like a militia guy out in the backwoods. We're not those people. We're everyday people who are just concerned about our constitutional rights. We're moms and dads that are worried about our safety, our kids' safety, and everything else. I mean, it's not something where we're going out and trying to show force. We're going out and trying to help educate the masses, basically.
Well, yeah, and even here in Nebraska, everybody thinks that Nebraska is a super gun-friendly state, and really, by laws, we're not that gun-friendly. It's just that we all own them. But a lot of the Nebraskans that I talk to are FUDs. But I've got people that I know who are anti-gun, and they're politically pretty left-leaning, pretty liberal all the way around. But even those people that know me still generalize gun owners, and they see gun owners as that person who's going down to 88 Tactical Range, one of them named it. Then they know where the thing is. It's down by Omaha. And, they're shooting their AR-15s and saying, cold dead hands and stuff like that. And that's not us. And the example I always give, being a Christian, I don't want people judging me being a Christian based off of what the idiots in Wichita at Westboro Baptist Church do and say, because they're a tiny group of extremists. The alt-right, tiny group of extremists. Antifa, tiny group of extremists. Normal people can get along and talk to each other, and that's all I want to see.
Exactly. And, we have that same issue in Texas. Everybody thinks Texas is completely pro-gun, but when you take a look at our laws, we're a little more pro-gun. We're about middle of the road. We're a little more pro-gun than some, but we're a lot less pro-gun than others. And so it's just that, like you said, everybody owns guns for the most part around here. We do have a lot of FUDs in the area, and like you said, we want to be able to have a conversation with people. It doesn't even have to be about guns. If somebody just walks up and likes you're wearing a jersey and they like the team and they want to talk to you for a bit about that, talk to them about that, and then you can direct the conversation. So what do you think about the Second Amendment? What do you think about firearms? This is why we're here, and you might change some minds if they start to see that you are a real person. You're not a FUD. You're not militia, backwoods militia that is waiting for World War III or the next Civil War. All right, so I guess we'll go ahead and start wrapping it up. So, go ahead. Night Strike, did you? I forgot you were on here. Did you have anything you wanted to throw in there?
Yeah, well, I've said this before, and we've had discussions about this before, but I think doing the state level is great, but we also need to do it national too. And I know I'm beating a dead horse, and I apologize for doing so, but yeah, we need two rallies a year, 6 months apart, but we need a national in the middle. Because if we don't have, well, yes, we're going to get some bad connotation from the media, but we're going to get that no matter what we do, whether it's state or federal or national, however you want to define it. The point is that just focusing on the state level is great, but we need national level attention, unfortunately. And we will get bad attention from the other side, but we can't help that. That's going to happen regardless. So that's
what
why
I would love to see happen.
I understand that we need to do a state level thing, and I'm down with that. It's just I think we need to push a little further than just state level all the time. And I'm sorry, Triple D.
No, that's okay. My ultimate goal, whether it's state level, national level, just sitting at the coffee shop, my ultimate goal, I would love to see media show up because they heard that there's a bunch of gun people getting together, and they show up wanting to expose us as the AR-15 toting backwoods militia, people, and then they find out that we're wearing jeans and a t-shirt and boots or sneakers or whatever, and we just look and act like everybody else. And if we weren't at this rally, you'd never know that we were gun owners or that any of us were carrying, because we do it discreetly, we do it quietly, and we don't make waves because we're normal people.
Yeah, it's just been something I've been thinking about for a long time, and I've said it a hell of a lot, but that's just how I feel.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you that national level would be a great platform on there. But like you're saying, it's about getting the attention. Not necessarily being right up in their face. And when it comes down to it, a lot of the lawmakers, they're not always going to be in their respective states and in their respective capitals for their states, but a lot of your legislators are based out of your states. They're not going to always be in Washington either, especially around that time of year.
Right.
Well, and the more I sit and think about what you said, Night Strike, I really like your idea, but I think in order to get that, I think we're going to have to get some traction at the state rallies for a year or two. And once people find out that, hey, this is happening, and, Lord willing, we get this done on the same day, all 50 states, then we're going to get a little bit of clout. We're going to get a little momentum. Then we can get a few of these other groups to back us up, be it GOA or whoever, and say, hey, you guys all did this without any of our help. Now let's see what we can do in Washington with their help. And I think if we start the ball rolling, then I think it's going to snowball as it picks up some steam.
I honest to God hope so. And if you're atheist, well, I honest to nothingness hope so. And if you're agnostic, I honestly to whatever's up there hope so. There we go.
And if you're dyslexic, honest to dog.
Right. We can't leave out our atheist or agnostic gun brethren. So
Honest to spaghetti monster.
No, everybody's welcome. Pro-gun, anti-gun, everybody's welcome at our rallies, right, Night Strike? Even if they wear a blue dress, they're welcome.
I'm only wearing that blue dress if I make that Indiegogo goal. I'm just saying.
I was just about to say, you couldn't think you were going to get through a whole conversation without the blue dress coming up.
No, it comes up all the time.
Hey, at least I called you by your name and not that other name they gave you.
Jonas?
Yeah, that. I didn't say that.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to run it back through before we close this out because I know we're getting close to 7 here. So we'll start with you, Night Strike, but if there's any last thoughts, if you want to do plugs, I'm fine with that. I know this is more for the Second Amendment rallies, but any plugs you have, that's fine. But any thoughts y'all have as far as planning and what everybody out there in the chat needs to be looking for going into these rallies?
I don't know. I honestly don't, because I tried to do it myself last year, and I didn't fail, but I didn't, succeed fantastically either. So,
well, that's going to be the point of these. And as we get traction on these chats, like I said, tonight was probably just bad planning. Sunday at this time is probably not the best time to really plan these chats, and I'm going to look at what day would be best. I'm going to look and probably see a different day to schedule them, because I do want to get like Matt involved. I do want to get Clover. Do want to get Ghost, the ones that were also heavily involved last year, and of course Matt pretty much started the whole ball rolling. So I want to get his input on it too.
I still want the South Carolina one dropped in my lap a week before this time.
Well, we've got, and there has been more people that have joined our group that are from your area, from South Carolina. So we may be able to at least have a couple of people.
I'm not saying I don't want to go to it, but I don't want to organize it this time. I did an awful job last minute. So
sure, but it was last minute. In your respective states, all of you, there's got to be at least one, if not several, major lobbying groups, right? Like for us, it's the Nebraska Firearms Owners Association. But in other states, there's going to be the equivalent of that.
I called and emailed all the supposed program groups. I didn't get a response from any of them other than just, we can't go and we're not going to go and tell our people to go. So goodbye. I got a couple crash and burns, and then I got no responses from the rest.
And I think they need to have the same. It's not a threat, but they need to have the same kind of wake up call given to them, just like the politicians. Hey guys, if you're not going to be in on this, we're going to make sure that we tell everybody in cyberspace that you didn't have our backs and their backs at this rally. And when this takes off, if you don't want a seat at the table now, there's not going to be a seat at the table when it gets big. And if they don't want to join us, that's fine. They don't have to. But we're going to call them out by name. We're going to find out who their CEO is or president or whatever. We're going to call them out by name, give people their contact information for their organizations, and let people bombard them and say, why aren't you coming? I thought better of you than that. And then again, we need to get the word out and encourage everybody. Go to gun shows, go to local gun stores, and just Definitely. Make sure everybody can pick up the phone and make that call or send that email or both. Heck, write a letter. That actually gets a lot of attention. They don't get a lot of those anymore. So if they get an actual letter that has to be opened and read, it's going to get read.
And a big thing is too, look at like you said, look at gun shows, look at gun shops, ranges. That was some of the speakers we had at Austin. Matt was able to get some of the local gun shops in the area that attended. And
well, I found out after the fact here, because I'm assuming it's like this everywhere, but in my area, there are dozens of groups on Facebook that are basically swap meets. And you can just post whatever you have for sale or whatever you're looking for, or if you just want to rant, some people use it for that. And I found out after the fact that there would have been a ton of people interested to go to our rally had they known about it, had I had more time to get that word out up here. So get on Facebook, get on Instagram, and make everybody, get the word out. Even if it's a group that you're part of that you don't think is going to be interested, just say, hey, personal message me for more info, and you might get that opportunity to spread the word that way too, to people you wouldn't ordinarily reach. There's no excuse for us to not get the word out, and there's no excuse for any of us that are hearing me right now to not try. So I'm calling,
and that's exactly what I was to say is, if we're putting the effort into it, I would rather us put as much effort as possible, go through all these tools that are here for us, and you end up with, I'm not even going to say this far out, I won't say it'll be any of us would have a poor attendance, but you just don't end up with the same attendance that you expect. But at least you put at least you can say you put the work in on it. If this far out, I can pretty much think that we'll probably have some good attendance going. Gizzard, Gary, I know you've been kind of quiet. You got any last thoughts or any plugs you want to throw out there?
No, I really don't. I mean, I've tried to throw a thing in here or there, but none of it was really that big a deal or hasn't already been said. So, main thing is we need to have somebody in each state that's in charge of this and to kind of take the lead and stuff like that. And one of the things I brought up is you may have trouble getting the state organizations involved because a lot of them are affiliated with the NRA. And if they realize that this is going to have an anti-NRA tone, they may back off of it.
That is very true.
I know there's an NRA. There's an NRA lobbyist that is on the board of the KSRA. So, and I'm sure that's true of a lot of states.
And you could very well be right, Dave. But I guess in my mind, I just take that as a challenge. Fine, you don't want to help us. We're going to do this without you, with or without you. So, but I think it still behooves us to try. Don't you guys think? Don't we give them the opportunity to say yes or no still?
I totally agree with that. But if you give them the tone, it's like, hey, if you don't help us out, we're going to basically publicly humiliate you. You're not going to gain yourself a lot of brownie points there from the people.
I'm not worried. I guess personally, I'm not worried about gaining brownie points with FUDs. If they don't want to help, just because it's the right thing to do, because it's, again, like the bigger gun channels this last rally that Matt reached out to, and the bigger channels on YouTube that said, well, I'm not going to be part of it if it's not my idea, then okay, fine. I'm not calling you bad names, but to me, that's a FUD. And I'm not worried about their respect, I guess. I'm just looking to get the word out to the people who don't know that we're on YouTube right now, who don't necessarily think one way or the other and haven't thought about it. I just want people to think about it. I don't care if they don't agree with me, if they know what they think.
Yeah, and I'll say this much, and then I'll jump over to you, St. Hills, for whatever else you got. The big thing with the NRA too, and this is my point of view, and this is what I think about what really needs to be said as far as if we're going to be calling them out along with these rallies, and the big part of that is going to be, just as Clover and everybody else has said, the ILA is the big issue. That arm of the NRA has gotten out of hand. Now the NRA overall has been out of hand for years, but now they've got it separated to where the ILA is their legislative part of it, and it's just continued the insanity. So that's the part they really need to look at fixing there, is what I think. But go ahead, St. Hills. Any plugs or any other last comments you have?
Oh, the only last comment I would have is if anybody couldn't already tell, I do get kind of fired up pretty easily when I start talking about things that I'm passionate about. So that last little rant, Gary, I hope you understood. I'm not mad. I'm not yelling at you or arguing with you. I'm just passionate. And I'm going to leave it at that. Y'all have a good night. Thanks for the invite.
Oh, no problem. So Gunpowder's away from her device, so I'll go ahead and wrap it up for the both of us. I know she's got Gun Gals coming on tonight, and Jelsma should be getting ready to come on if he hadn't already. But Gun Gals, I believe, is at 8:30 tonight. So just 8:30 Central. So, be on the lookout for that. And just the big thing is, everybody, my email is tar.357@gmail.com. Gunpowder's email is gunpowder.beauty@gmail.com. Shoot us an email if you are wanting to look at taking care of your state or joining the team for your state to pull things together. Because like I said, the 5 of us on this panel can't run the whole country putting a rally together. So we definitely need all the help that's out there. So if you're looking to take over and you've got the resources you need, let us know, and I'll get with you and we'll get this start getting this planned out as far as who's taking care of what. And then if I get multiple responses from each state, I'll get y'all teamed up together, get y'all's emails to each other so you can communicate with each other too and be able to get this stuff planned. But I need that response to know who can take care of where. So like I said, tar.357@gmail.com. It's all one word. And gunpowder.beauty@gmail.com. That's really all I've got. So I hope, when I get this next stream planned, we'll be able to get a few more people on here. I'm going to take a look at the show schedules and make sure any of the players that we're wanting to get onto the panel, like Matt, Clover, some of them that were really heavily involved last year, get them on there so we can get some good feedback about what we really need to do going forward as far as getting these things planned. What failed last year that we can improve on this year. aside from timing. And a big thing would be, like I said, today was just the big plan was trying to get a date in mind, in which we have that with May 6th, that I can run with, and we can start getting these things planned. We know when we have to have it planned by. So thank y'all for watching, and panel, thank y'all for joining us. And I hope y'all have a wonderful night.